Hey everybody, welcome to Bura Tech. In this video, we're going to be asking the question, should you make development and programming easy for yourself? Alright, welcome. So, the question we're asking today is, should development and programming be easy? The answer is an obvious yes, but you would be surprised at how many developers, even experienced developers and companies, fail at this miserably. Development is really hard, really hard, so why should you make it more complicated for yourself? Sometimes there's no other way to make development easy. Sometimes it just has to be complicated. But if you're just starting out or you're making a project by yourself and working on your own time, it doesn't have to be hard. In fact, you should make it extremely easy. As a developer, you want to spend the least amount of time to get the most amount of results. You don't want to waste your time because time is money and time is precious. So how can you make your development experience easier? There's lots of ways. The best way is to choose the right development environment. In this video, I've mentioned how much I love Construct 3 and how easy it is to make games in Construct 3. In fact, if you want to make a game in Construct 3, it's a lot easier than Unity or Unreal or any other engine. The reason why I use Construct 3 is I don't want to spend my time worrying about minutia to make the app even playable. I want to make my game as quickly as possible to get it into the player's hands as quickly as possible. So if you're working on a project, this should be your goal too. Now, some people would point out that perhaps Construct 3, since it's a zero coding game engine, that it's not as sophisticated as something like Unity or Unreal. This couldn't be farther from the truth. You still have to put in the logic there. It's just easier to put in the logic. Now, of course, other game engines are a lot more complicated, and sometimes you need that complexity. But if you're first starting out, I would recommend that you make a project and get it out there as quickly as possible so that you have a project to release. That way you go through the entire development process. A lot of people fall in the trap of just kind of building a few projects here and there and never releasing something. Until you push the release button, there is lots to be learned. By going through that habit of releasing projects on a timely schedule, then you'll actually become a really good developer. This is something that I've done personally, and I've talked about rapid prototyping and releasing projects on a timely basis. I talk about them all the time in my courses, which you can see below. Now, just because you spend more time in a project doesn't mean that the project is going to get better. You want to spend effective time in your project to make your project more effective. This is not just good advice for being a programmer, but it's good advice for life in general. Your time is precious and you only have a small amount of it. You should use it as best as possible. So when you're going through your project and you spend 2 or 3 hours on some silly technical problem, that's not time well spent. The best time well spent is when you make the product better. Choosing an engine that has all these problems figured out for you is a very good step to saving time. This, of course, comes down to preference. Some developers like using a minimalist development environment like Sublime and doing everything by hand, and other developers like using a fully fledged IDE like Xcode. Some people really like the technical problems of a specific project. For me, I just want to get my idea out there so that people can enjoy my app. When I'm spending hours on some technical problem, which happens all the time, I've wasted hundreds, if not thousands of hours on just technical stuff that doesn't matter. The end user doesn't care about the technical problems that your project had. All they care about is the end experience. If the end experience is better, then your app or game or project will be way more successful. So it only makes sense to cut out as many technical problems as possible, and choosing the right development environment is a key factor of that. So one of the big things that's happening now is that Google Flutter has come out, and if you don't know what Google Flutter is, you can check out this video on why I think it's so awesome. So Google Flutter is a development environment that allows you to make apps for not only Android but iOS pretty much at the same time. Now, there's been lots of attempts at doing this. Xamarin is a good example. There's a ton of different examples of building once and deploying to both platforms. And other times, these development environments aren't really that good. They do a very poor job of doing both. So big companies, what they do is they make a project in Xcode and then they make a project in Android Studio. And that is incredibly time consuming. If you are a small team or just making an app by yourself, it makes sense to use Google Flutter because it takes out that problem. Do you really want to make your app twice? No, that's incredibly silly. But there are developers out there that want to do that, and that is a complete waste of time, because if you can do it once in Google Flutter and make a really good experience, your app is going to be a million times more successful than if you work with both platforms. And on top of that, Google Flutter is actually built for speed. It's very intuitive and it's very easy to make an app in. In fact, it's as good as Android Studio or Xcode, but in different ways. So what are some other tips that you can use to make your development experience much easier? You want to pick a development environment that has lots of autocomplete. Autocomplete will definitely help you out because memorizing all that code takes a lot of mental power. And oftentimes, if you have a good autocomplete system within your development environment, it's going to be a lot easier. In fact, I had a friend that said, I'd be out of a job if it weren't for autocomplete. As an app developer myself, I've noticed that Xcode's autocomplete is really good. In fact, it cuts down on development time. Because at the end of the day, you as a coder still know what's going on, but the autocomplete just helps you along. It's kind of like having a bike with a motor in it. Of course you know how to cycle, but the motor is going to help you get there faster or climb the hills much more easily. The other thing that can make your development experience much easier is the amount of code that that specific development environment has. For instance, if you're a web developer, there is so much code out there that you can borrow from and you can adapt to your project. Now, other environments don't have that as much. So if you're using a very esoteric language, then you're going to have a hard time finding solutions to your problem. Because if there's more code out there, chances are someone has had that problem that you're having now, and there's some example code out there that you can use in your project. Again, if there's not a lot of code out there, then you have to solve the problem from scratch by yourself, and that's really complicated. So I would recommend picking a development environment and a coding language that there's a lot of code out there on the internet. Now, going back to Flutter, Flutter is incredibly new, and there's not as much code out there. So if you are just starting out, then perhaps pick a development environment that has a lot of code with it. And if you're more experienced, then you can go into Google Flutter. And one of the best things you can do is help that code base grow. If you make 4 or 5 posts a month on your problems on Stack Overflow, then you help the entire community. Because again, if you're having a problem, chances are thousands of other people are having that problem too, and you can help the community get better. Now, another thing that can make development easier for you, and I've already kind of mentioned this, is to pick a development environment that does a lot of the technical stuff for you. For example, if you've ever uploaded to the App Store, you'll know that it's a huge process. Even uploading to Google Play or just uploading an app in general can take a bit of work. If you make an HTML5 game, for instance, it's really easy. You just upload it to the server. But making an app for the App Store, there's a lot of work. It can take such a long time to upload to the App Store, and that's time that you're not going to get back. So when you upload to the App Store, there's a bunch of technical issues that you have to address. You also have to address all the functionality in your app too. That's why it can take so long. So if you have a development environment that does all that for you and makes it much easier for you, then you want to take it. So if you make an app in Xcode, you have to work with Xcode because that's the best way to upload it to the App Store. But if you make an HTML5 game, all the work is practically done for you, and it's actually less work to upload an HTML5 game to the App Store that is exported through Cordova or something. So it's much easier to upload an HTML5 game to the App Store that's exported in Cordova versus something that is made natively in Xcode. And that is easy for you because you're not wasting your time. Now, of course, if you can make your app in Xcode, Apple really likes that. They don't tend to favor HTML5 games as much as something that's made in Xcode. Now, I teach a lot of beginners, and I always say to these beginners that you want to get in the habit of releasing. And I talk about this all the time in my courses, and I've mentioned it earlier even in this video. If you get in the habit of releasing, then you're going to become a better developer. If you have 3 or 4 people, and a couple of those people release as much as they can, and other people, they don't, they just prototype all day, the 2 people that have released more content will be better developers. One of the major things I hear from beginners is, what if I choose the wrong development environment? This is frankly impossible because if you choose the wrong development environment, you can always switch. When you learn something in programming, you never go back to zero. So let's say you start off as a Swift developer and then you want to go to web development. Now, there are concepts that are similar and there are concepts that are different. By learning how to become a really good Swift developer, you will have learned the foundations of programming and development. And those foundations of programming and development can be transferred to other areas. Now, I'm not saying that you should always switch between development environments, but if you learn a development environment and have to switch, you have to also realize that that's extremely common. In fact, if you have to do this, then you want to find a way of learning a new language as quickly as possible. You also get to learn the big picture of development because each development environment and each programming languages have different philosophical questions that they answer. Xcode is different from Android Studio. Web development is different from both of those. Game development is different. And even the engines like Unity and Unreal, Stencil and Construct, they all have different answers to the philosophical questions of development. So in conclusion, your time is valuable and you want to make sure that you're not wasting any of it when you're developing, especially if you're using your free time to develop your own app or game. So let me know your favorite development environment and let me know how easy it is. We do read the comments below. Hey everybody, thanks for listening. If you're like me and you like to keep your data private, and there's no better way to do that than with today's sponsor, NordVPN. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and if you want to browse anonymously, keep your location secret, and keep your data encrypted, this product is for you. As a bonus, if you ever get a message saying that a video is not available in your country, you can simply click a button and virtually teleport to any country you want. NordVPN is the best because they have thousands of servers worldwide and they're super fast. In addition, they have an Android and iOS app that helps you stay safe even on mobile devices. This comes free with your account. NordVPN lets you connect 6 devices with one subscription so you and your family are covered. If you want to get 75 off the 3-year plan and get 1 month free, you can use the coupon code Bura at checkout with the link below. Please use the coupon code Bura so that NordVPN will know that I sent you. You can only get this amazing offer if you use the link below and the coupon code Bura. With NordVPN, you can rest assured that your privacy is taken care of. Thanks for listening. Please be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to take a look at some of the games that Mammoth Interactive has made or some of the courses, please check them out below. Every bit of money that we get from these courses and games goes straight into making more content. Also, if you're a startup or a company, I do a ton of consulting with companies to make sure that their development environments are easy and that they hire the right people. So you can take a look at the forums below on that as well. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in another video.